Happy Friday, AFC Bournemouth fans. Well, I say happy. Eddie Howe has had his press conference this morning, and this is what he had to say. So the first question he was asked this morning was, of course, about our injuries. He said, we are in a difficult moment with the injury list. We'll be picking our strongest team available. Well, that's a media-trained soundbite. If ever there was one, of course you will, Eddie. Well, I would certainly hope so. But the main injury concern, of course, is regarding Nathan Ake. Now, of course, you'll have seen the media speculation during the week. Chelsea's buyback clause is still active, and due to the Court of Arbitration in Sport halving their transfer ban, basically January they become active again. And because of that clause, they could have him for 40 million. There are a lot of swings and roundabouts. Some other clubs supposedly interested, including Manchester City, who've got their own sort of defensive crises, haven't they? However, Eddie Howe said that it's relatively good news, about 6 weeks. That is conservative. The scan was revealed as grade 2. Eddie says you have to be cautious with these types of injury. Of course, in the week, Nathan Ake was telling the local media that how happy he was here on the South Coast, but obviously that may be out of his control as to whether he stays or not. But regarding Callum Wilson's injury, of course, he went off early during Liverpool last week. He said not a serious injury, very minimal. Whether we'll see him starting, don't know. I would say probably not. But Josh King has a chance of featuring this weekend. And oh my goodness, if we can get him on the pitch, then that would be a massive boost. At least psychologically to the side as well. So hopefully that's something that will happen this weekend. So, of course, without Nathan Ake, without Steve Cook, who was being operated on in the week at hospital with regards to his wrist, Eddie said, we are stretched defensively. There's no doubt about that. Losing Nathan Ake and Steve Cook is a big blow. It's a mix of youth and experience. They have to step up now. Collectively, it will be a new back four. That's something we have worked on. So what he said there is maybe guiding me in towards the back four that we'll probably see. In a way, I'd like to see a back five, but we'll come on to that later. On his current situation at the club, Eddie Howe was asked about his mentality, and he replied, in these moments, I like to think I can be at my best. This is where I need to be at my strongest. I like to think that I can handle these situations and do it again. Now, of course, there was an interview at Julia's house, was it, or somewhere, where Eddie said about the transfers not being in his control, which made a lot of Bournemouth fans very downbeat. And he said, I think regarding every transfer, there's no one person in control of everything. So he's toned it down a little, what he said. From my side, I'm trying to get the best possible results for this team. So a little bit of deflection there from Eddie. But he was then asked against Chelsea. They've done well. They've been tested by the transfer ban. Frank and his team have done so well with that. The young players have responded in kind. It's a different Chelsea. And also, he went on to say, I think in these moments, I'd like to think that's where I try to be at my best, because I think this is the most challenging moment for you when you're leading the team and you're being asked questions and people will doubt and a whole host of different emotions. Yeah, of course. And yeah, I mean, he's also added, it's not about listening to the noise around you, getting the best out of every single player that we have. That's probably my biggest task, and we'll be fine. So there we go. He was also asked about Frank Lampard, but that's not very Bournemouth related, is it? Of course, he's doing relatively well at Chelsea this season, barring their defeat to West Ham recently. So that is Eddie Howe's press conference this morning. So, yeah, those were the thoughts of Eddie Howe this morning. And as you can see, I'm joined by Mr. Jeff Hayward. Jeff, Saturday was not a good day to be a Bournemouth fan, but it's a game against a big team that we've had a fair bit of success with both home and away. So how are you feeling ahead of Saturday's clash at Chelsea?
Brutally honest, I think we'll do really well to get a point, but who knows? Football's a funny game.
Yeah, it is a funny game, and not, Eddie Howe, of course, coy as always, not really knowing who's going to be back in contention. what are Chelsea's strengths? Because did you see them against Everton? They lost 3-1, was it? They didn't look like the team that has been doing so well, but do you think on Everton's part, it was possibly the new manager bounce that made them perform so well?
There was that, but let's look at how they won that game. There were several things that were pretty clear. Number one, they roughed them up. They were in their faces. They were niggling at them all through the game. They didn't let them settle. They didn't let them play that passing game. And against a young side, which Chelsea are, that definitely worked. So, number one, you've got to be physical with them if you're going to get anywhere. Number two, crosses, right? I was talking to a Chelsea fan earlier this week who said to me they treat every corner like a penalty at Chelsea. That's how bad they think they are at defending crosses. What are we good at? We're good at set pieces. Okay? So there's a reason for optimism. And number three, they had a poor day finishing. They're a young side. They can be brilliant, and they've turned over a number of sides this season, 4-5, and, deservedly so. They've scored some spectacular goals. Tammy Abraham is a huge talent. Pulisic is a huge talent. Mason Mount is a fantastic player. But they're also up and down. They're a young side like we are, and sometimes it won't click for them. So we could catch them on an off day. I've got to say that West Ham caught them on an off day a couple of weeks ago, and boy, I wish that had been us playing them. There's that game at Lille. They've got what's that taken out of them? That was a huge pressure match for them. Will they be able to repeat a performance again? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, and I'd love to see how we line up. But unfortunately, there's no real expectations for us Cherries. But I think what we have got on our locker is the fact that we know we've done it before, and we haven't got that mental block that we sometimes have when we play the teams like Man City, for example. Can I get an early prediction from you at this stage? I don't know why we do these, Jeff. There's no point, is there? But go on.
Well, I keep getting them half right. I mean, anyway, whatever. It's always the half that I don't want to get right. I think if we come out of that game with a 3-1 defeat and a performance, I'll be relatively happy. I actually feel it's not about the game against Chelsea. It's about the three games that come after. And I'll just briefly mention those. Burnley, home, that is a must-win game.
Yeah, big time.
Arsenal, Boxing Day, must-win game. Brighton, 2 days later, that to me is somewhere you've got to get a point. I think if we can get 7 points out of the next 4 games, we'll be feeling a lot better. And that is the target. One other thing that I want to say, Sam, is that we've talked a lot about team selections recently, and a lot of people have got opinions about who should be in and who should be out. Let's face it, the choice of players that you can pick is getting more and more limited. So in a way that kind of focuses the mind on it's going to be roughly that 11. We know who those core players for the next few weeks are going to be. Now is the time to build that siege mentality and say, right, we've got to get results. Let's dig in. We've been there before. We know we can do it. Let's get some results.
Yeah, Robert Murphy on Twitter poses an interesting question. Are we expecting too much as a fan base? He says, have we forgotten where we've come from, given that we're seeing plenty on social media saying it's time for management change or tactics are stale? What are your thoughts? Do we expect too much? Replay back to the start of this season where we invested a lot of money in new players, and we were all very excited about those players coming in. And I think we as Bournemouth fans should be a bit more grown up about it. That we deserve to be here. We've played some really good quality football over the last 4 seasons. We're an established Premier League side. That's how other teams look at us. And even talking to people who don't know anything about the situation we're in, everybody thinks, oh, we'll be fine, we'll be finished mid-table. I heard loads of that yesterday even. But whether the people in the town, the fans, actually believe that is another matter. And I think we all come with that
kind of complex of -17 and knowing all the tough times that we've had. But now is the time to actually believe that, we flipping deserve to be in the Premier League because we're a good football team and we should play like it. Let's not play like any of these teams that have had relegation nailed on from this time of year. Huddersfield were dead certs to go down last season from about this time. Villa a couple of seasons before that. Swansea were desperately, they were going down from way before they went down. And I don't think we're that sort of side. No. We're a fighting team. Anything is possible, and that means that you've got to pull yourself together and get stuck in. Sorry, it sounds a bit Salam Allardyce. Didn't mean to be, but that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I do agree. Michael Poncho says, why is Eddie so stubborn with 4-4-2? Why is Lewis Cook being left on the bench? Why bring Simpson over Stacey? Yeah, interesting, Michael. And I'm going to just take you through the team now that I believe is going to be played based on the team news that Eddie Howe said this morning. So this is what I'm going for. So this is the team that we would like. It probably won't happen though. We all know that 4-4-2 is Eddie's favoured formation. We do feel as though there needs to be an extra man, either in defence or in the middle of the park. Now, of course, at the back, as a five, we don't do particularly well. Therefore, I do feel though that with Frano and Mepham in there, we do need a little bit of extra help with regards to a more defensive central midfielder. So i.e. Dan Gosling or Jefferson Lerman could come back. Now I do feel as though Dan Gosling should start. He's that box-to-box midfielder that we're really missing. I think Philip Billing has been looking a little bit pedestrian recently, and I think that having the engine of Gozzo in there would be really good. Having the creativity of Lewis Cook could also work. Now, we know we've seen Cook play a very deep role earlier in the season. I think it was against Norwich where he just seemed so deep. He did come out of his shell a little bit in the second half, so it could be him that plays deep and helps Mepham and Francis out. Now, ideally we'd play a third central defender, but as we know, it never quite works. And you've got the experience of Frano. Mepham's on that left side. Now he's usually on the right. So whether there'll be any flexibility with regards to what side they play, I don't know. But Jack Stacey surely is a shoo-in for the right back position because Adam Smith, doesn't look likely, of course. And Rico on the left. I think that Dan Juma's probably going to sit on the bench here. Harry Wilson, the goal threat's got to start, really. I know that Plindout in that position isn't his best. And I think Fraser will probably get the nod as well, because I think he actually did okay against Liverpool. I know that we've got it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction to criticise Fraser this season. However, I do feel as though he poses more of a direct threat than Dan Juma does. But I think Dan Juma maybe in the second half could come on when either one of those two wingers will actually get a little bit tired, which they probably will. So that's what I would like with Josh King up front. I know that Callum Wilson has sort of the injury is not as bad as I said earlier, but I don't think he does need a break, and maybe this is the game for him to have it. If it's not King, it'll be Solanke. But I'm going for King just to start off with. But bear in mind, it could be Solanke if King is not deemed fit enough. Now, other than this, what he could do is put Solanke up front with King, of course. And that is a genuine possibility. He did all right last week, Dom Solanke. Just think he needs to pull the trigger a little bit more. If that happened, Lerma would definitely be starting. But would it be Gosling with him, or a bit of creativity with Lewis Cook? Because Dan Gosling's not exactly the kind of person who'll spray lovely 40-yard balls out to feet, is he? So maybe Lewis Cook would get the nod. That's what I think Eddie would probably do. However, would be really interested to know what you think in terms of formation-wise. I would love to see a 4-5-1, but whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. So that's the team I'm going for, I think, based on what Eddie would probably do. Not the defensive help that is needed with a third man in the middle, or in defence, that is. But given his
his insistence on 4-4-2 this season. I was going to say stubbornness, but that's what I think is probably more likely with King and Solanke up front. But we'll see. Chelsea, of course, so strong down that middle of the pitch. I just feel as though we need that extra man. So that's why I'd have Gozzo in there and take out either King or Solanke. Probably Solanke if King's fit. Obviously, Solanke would start if he isn't. Who knows? What do you think about lineup? We would love to hear. Let us know in the comments below.
So yeah, I mean that's the team that I would like, but who knows? Jeff, once again, it's been a pleasure, and fingers crossed we can get something at Chelsea. Fingers crossed, eh?
Fingers crossed.
Up the cherries, and we'll see you in the next video.